Hello, 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 and welcome back, family, to Masquerade Monday. My name is Huddy, and tonight we're talking LA by Night. As always, this video is not scripted and these opinions are all my own, so take what I say with a grain of salt. The night continues from episode 7, and we rejoin Annabelle and X during their egress from the San Fernando mission, and they have convinced one of the hunters, Elijah, to escort them out past the armed guards and security. Annabelle tells him to dismiss them, but they don't all fully comply, most of them merely backing away a few paces or simply lowering their guns. Elijah leads them into a chapel with a large wooden cross on one of the walls, and it is there that Adrian waits. He tells Elijah to go and see Sister Dorothy, and Elijah concedes, despite Annabelle's influence of entrancement on him. Elijah continues to promise Annabelle that he will escort them out, but he confesses that he must do what his superior requests. Adrian then explains to Annabelle and X that because Elijah has committed himself to the highest will, God, there is no room for weaker wills to exploit him. X accuses Adrian of lying to him, saying that they said they were going to cure him, but instead they put him in a cell with Annabelle. Annabelle says to Adrian that she doesn't believe his organization is about saving souls, but about control, and that she won't let him have Los Angeles. She goes on to say that most kindred didn't choose to be what they are, that they just try and survive night to night and keep their beast at bay, to which Adrian says to just walk into the sunrise. X claims that it isn't that easy, but Adrian insists that it is if one believes, that they are already in perdition in an unspeakable existence, and that this world is not the point, not the final stop. X attempts to use dementation on Adrian, but his will is much too strong, and in response, Adrian holds up his crucifix and attempts to ward off both of them. Light seems to beam at them from the very air, and Annabelle suffers the bane of her clan as she and X are faced off with true faith. Meanwhile, outside the San Fernando mission, the rest of the Coterie have arrived, ready for a fight. We learn that Victor has taken steps to ensure the ley lines are at their disposal, relying on his summons power to give Hester a signal and location for an attack. We also learn that most of Victor's security are deceased, and Campbell has been taken by the hunters. We learn that Nellie had a conversation with Greg, who had returned to the hospital while she was still visiting Chelsea. He informs Nellie what we learned in the stinger between Greg and Agent Handler, that Adrian is a zealous nutjob and his old boss Handler wants to help get rid of the Holy Warriors. He goes on to inform her that they did indeed take prisoners, which Nellie already knew, but that Annabelle, as far as he is aware, is still in the city. The others were taken elsewhere for reasons unknown, and Adrian is breaking protocol, breaking ranks to keep Annabelle here. Nellie directs her attention then to the unconscious Chelsea, and Ebe once again asks her not to embrace her without asking, claiming that she thought on life would be better, but now she doesn't really know if she made the right choice, which is really sad for Ebe. Ebe then takes Chelsea's collapsible sniper rifle, and Nellie somewhat reluctantly decides not to embrace Chelsea, at least not right now. We learn that Jasper did not get the metal gauntlet he had asked Gary Golden for earlier in the night, but Gary did manage to find a hockey goalie's mitt. I really hope someone in the family makes fan art of Jasper wearing it. Pretty please? Jasper and Eva also have a conversation, perhaps in the car, or they took a brief moment before leaving Hollywood Forever Cemetery, where Eva tells him that she's been confused for a very long time and that Jasper is the only thing that she is sure of. Jasper then asks her not to electrocute anybody unless it's absolutely necessary, and she promises, but says she may not be able to stop herself if Jasper is in danger. We learn that Eva has prepared herself with Deflection of Wooden Doom, a ritual that causes a stake about to pierce the heart to shatter. She also attempted Firewalker, a ritual that increases a target's resistance to fire, on all of the Coterie to varying degrees of success, chopping off fingertips until she is left with only 4 intact. Eva also attempts to make an Essence of Air potion, but suffers a bestial failure, causing her hunger to spike, which Jasper does notice and offers her his wrist. Back inside the mission, Adrian is screaming at Annabelle to recognize her own beast, realize that when he told her the Camarilla were gone, her beast found something else for her to rebel against. Annabelle retorts with, "There will always be a need for soldiers of the revolution." X jumps to attack Adrian, grabbing him by the throat, and feeds from him. Adrian does not resist, and as the blood fills X's mouth, it tastes thin and watery like liquid ash, prompting him to stop feeding, and X suffers an aggravated damage and feels like he will never be able to slake his hunger again. Adrian then takes out a dagger and moves to attack X, but Annabelle intercepts him and drives Adrian against the nearest wall. She urges Adrian to leave Los Angeles, but her pleas are interrupted by the sound of of gunfire outside. She begs him to call his people off, to stop firing, but instead Adrian places his finger to his ear and commands his people to hit whoever is outside with the gas. Annabelle can no longer hold back her beast and leaps up to pull the large wooden cross off of the wall and drives the point into Adrian's chest, taking 2 points of aggravated damage as he tries to repel her, only too late. Before he dies, Adrian says he'll wait for Annabelle in the fire, to which she responds, through tears, "I'll see you there." The Coterie outside the mission is faced with a monumental task of rescuing their fellow kindred, who, unbeknownst to them, may not need that much help. I will do my best now to briefify the fight. Jasper makes his way into the compound following a group of soldiers converging on some unknown point. Eva follows behind him, both of them using unseen passage. And although Jasper sneaks through unseen and undetected, Eva accidentally sets off some sort of true faith ward, and a blinding light gives her an aggravated damage, breaks her obfuscate, and reveals her to the enemy. Nellie meanwhile relies on her speed and unerring aim as she takes out guard after guard with her sharp, deadly knives, and Eve uses the powers of Oblivion to beat other guards down and out. That is until both of them see the red gas rolling and boiling and heading straight towards them. Nellie, using Blink, grabs Eve and tries to put as much distance between them and the red gas. Victor, still in the vehicle, comes face to face with a troop of well-armed individuals, but luckily they are a goodbye gift from the long-gone Baron Isaac Abrams that Nellie had been saving for a special occasion, and they too join the fray. Jasper, as he continues to move silently through the compound, finds himself being seen, despite his obfuscate, by a hunter he faced last night in Griffith Park, her face and head still burned by Zeus's fury. As she holds out her hand to him, Jasper says the wrath of God falls heaviest on the faithful, and moves to strike her with the blessed mace, with Eva assisting, using movement of the mind to hold her in place as the weapon smashes open the hunter's skull. Jasper and Eva then both hear a loud, mournful cry from inside the chapel, and foregoing stealth, Jasper runs inside. And once inside, he sees Annabelle and X, and of course, the deceased Adrian. Jasper and Eva usher them back outside. The red gas now has gotten far too close for comfort, and only Jasper is able to outrun the gas, and of course Victor, who is still outside the compound. It burns Nellie, Eve, Eva, Annabelle, and X for 2 aggravated damage, and their flesh becomes covered in painful little burns. Piling into the SUVs, Victor uses summons on Hester, and with a sudden deafening roar, an earthquake occurs beneath the compound and cracks and swallows up the buildings in its wake. The Coterie reconvene back beneath Hollywood Forever Cemetery with Gary Golden as their host. Beaten, damaged, but not broken or defeated, the Coterie is finally together again after so long, and they take a moment of solace. Annabelle expresses remorse over Adrian's death at her hands, but she says she isn't a pacifist, that everyone always thinks she's a pacifist. She just never wanted to give in to the beast, that she's afraid of where this path would lead her. Victor hands Annabelle the paper bag left by Carver and tells her that Carver didn't abandon her totally. Victor also takes the opportunity to remind them that the hunters attacked them because they were apart, that this only went so badly because they weren't together. Jasper then proclaims that this happened because of Victor and Nellie and their baronies and their desire for power. He then says he's not doing this anymore, that this coterie is done for him. Gary interrupts to tell the coterie that a visitor is here to meet with them, and it's revealed to be none other than Cuthbert Beckett. Now, any of you who have watched my recaps from last season know that I have asked many times, could this be Beckett? And although I discussed him then, I will briefly go over who he is now. Beckett is one of the most prominent characters throughout the books of Vampire the Masquerade. Having wandered the globe for the last 300 years or so, exploring kindred lore and mythology, Beckett may be one of the greatest noddist historians and archaeologists of the world of darkness. Beckett is a rare gangrel, well-connected, educated. He has cultivated contacts and allies around the world from the ranks of mortals and supernaturals alike, and is known throughout kindred society for coming and going as he pleases, and always appearing when interesting items, books, scraps, or stories appear. Beckett also has 2 beast marks, the bane of his clan, which are cat-like red eyes that faintly glow and claw-like nails, forcing him to keep his hands covered and wear shaded glasses among mortals. Beckett arrives along with Delilah, and I could not do this scene justice even if I tried, but I'll give it my best shot. Unsurprisingly, Beckett wants to learn about what has transpired with the Second Inquisition attack on Los Angeles. He asks about Prince Vannevar Thomas, Annabelle's role in the Anarch movement, how Delilah learned about diablerie and the general state of her army of Thin Bloods, and the meaning of uwu, of course. Victor then asks Beckett about the Thin Blood prophecy, perhaps the best kindred in the world to ask about this, and Beckett answers in the way I most expected, that he believes there is no prophecy, there is no end, that Gehenna is cyclical, that these events occur and they are supposed to occur in whatever form they do. Victor asks Beckett to inform other kindred he meets that the Free States are back and the work of Jeremy McNeil, one of its original founders, will be continued. By the way, I've made a 5-part series of the history of Los Angeles and the World of Darkness, which I will leave in the description. Beckett does actually agree to pass this on, if it's necessary. They then ask him where he is off to next, and apparently it's Costa Rica, where a Methuselah, which is a vampire of the 4th or 5th generation and is at least 1,000 years old, has recently awoken from torpor, and Beckett is eager to take down their memories. Before he leaves, Beckett, ever the independent kindred, encourages these LA anarchs to keep questioning authority, to hold on to their individuality and independence as the greatest bulwark against the Camarilla, and reminds them that he did not get where he is by listening and bowing down to his betters. The stinger plays and we see Jasper showing Beckett the entrance to the labyrinth. Beckett asks for a copy of Jasper's map, which he admits is still incomplete because of the fluidity of the labyrinth, and also informs him of the ley lines. Beckett asks why Jasper is showing him this, and he admits that he doesn't know what to do with it, how to protect it. Beckett says he cannot guide him in this, and Jasper asks what it's like to be centuries old. Beckett says that living by curiosity gives his long unlife purpose, for there is so much to know in this world of darkness. If you haven't already, please go follow the World of Darkness Twitch channel, subscribe to them on YouTube, and if you can, sub to their channel on Twitch. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to me as well, and let me know your thoughts on Episode 8, Reign in Hell, in the comments. As always, I'll see you in the next one.